All right, friends. So our speaker today is somebody well known to us and somebody who we trust on for wisdom, trust for wisdom and insights. And he brings those to us. And so let's welcome Kevin Hauber. Kevin, come on up.
Good morning. Good to be back with you. Always feels like homecoming every time. And it's been a long time of homecomings, hasn't it? So I've been working on something that I want to share with you this morning, and I hope this lands for you as it has been meaningful for me. So I'm going to start off with Lao Tzu. Any of you know Lao Tzu? Yeah. So Lao Tzu tells us, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Let's do that one more time just to make sure we get the progression of that. How about that? Because that's a lot to take in. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So he tells us, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So let's percolate on that a little bit and take that in. That it feels like a good thing to think about on a Sunday morning to me. So join me in that. And it also reminds me that I cannot control what other people think or do. Ever got caught in that one of, I really want this other person or this situation to change, and I can't control that. But yes, dang it. But I can control however I receive what's going on and what my thoughts about it are and what my words about it are and my actions. Got the idea? Okay. Feels like good subject material. So first off, let's frame up with some data about who Lao Tzu is, or Lao Tzu, depending on who's spelling it. So Lao Tzu was a Chinese philosopher credited with the founding of the philosophical system of Taoism. And Taoism is a philosophical system as opposed to a religion. You get the idea of the differentiation between the two. He is best known as the author of the Tao Te Ching, which is the work that exemplifies his thought. And this is where it gets fun, because the name by which he is known is not a personal name, but an honorific title meaning old man or old teacher. Honorific? Not necessarily in our culture to be called that way, but nonetheless. And there has been countless speculation as to whether an individual by that name ever existed, or whether Lao Tzu is an amalgam of many different philosophers. And I found this piece that it was really fun. The historian Durant writes, Lao Tzu, greatest of the pre-Confucian philosophers, knew the wisdom of silence and lived, we may be sure, to a ripe old age. Though we're not sure that he lived at all. If he did exist, he is thought to have lived in the 6th century BCE. Not exactly definitive, huh? So what are we dealing with here with this Lao Tzu guy? So isn't it interesting that as time goes on, the line between what someone actually said and what gets attributed to that person gets blurred, particularly with AI coming out now, right? You just can't tell anymore. So think of all of the sages throughout history that this might apply to. Now, all you need to do is look at some of the Christian Gospels, and especially the non-canonical Christian Gospels, and you'll find that kind of thing all the time. There are many attributions, for example, of wisdom of the time to having been said by Jesus. Did he say them? Maybe. Maybe he repeated them, or maybe he originated them. We don't know. Many of those things are just part of the mythology. So recent examples abound too. I was on a call recently when someone quoted Nelson Mandela as saying this, and you'll probably recognize this passage. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everybody. As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others the permission to do the same. We are liberated from our own fear. Our presence automatically liberates others. Now that is a wonderful piece of inspiration, isn't it? And the guy who was quoting that was quoting it in the context of Nelson Mandela's inauguration speech. Well, yes, but the interesting thing is that that quote originated with Marianne Williams in her book, Return to Love, back in the 90s, or it even might have even been the late 80s. I don't remember how far back that went, but it's been a while. And it has been used by countless others since then. So, did Lao Tzu originate the quote that we started with today or not? Does it matter? Doesn't matter a bit. I'm more interested in the progression that's being described there and how we might internalize that and be able to use that day in and day out in our lives, and the awareness that we can cultivate around that. That feels most important to me. So let's look at that. Now, one of my mom's favorite sayings is that we have to stand guard at the portal of our thoughts. It was something that she had grown up with. And now, that might be kind of an old-fashioned framing of the idea, but then again, mom is 98. So, old-fashioned works for mom. And so how is it that we stand guard at the portal of our thoughts so that this progression that we're talking about happens in a way that we would want to see unfold? So we're looking at the first link in that chain today. Are we willing to slow down enough to be able to look at the repetitive thoughts that we have? Have you ever noticed, just stopped in a moment and realized, my mind is racing. It is revving like a Ferrari, and I am out of here, and my thoughts are so far out ahead, and usually catastrophizing and that kind of stuff. What are the patterns that we have, and do they serve us? We take a moment to slow down enough to see that. It's the difference between being stuck in a rut and being in our groove. Get the idea? There's a very different energy between those two, stuck in a rut and in our groove. It's all about the energy that we're cultivating. So if we recognize that a thought doesn't serve us, can we consciously make another choice often enough for it to become that habit that Lao Tzu talked about? Can we recognize it and start to shift the habits? That takes work, doesn't it? So we have to be willing to catch ourselves in the moment. Now, I happen to find some material on this from Deepak Chopra that I thought was just great. So I'm going to share this with you because this just frames it up really well. I love to do these lessons, but I love to come away with the how can we actually take this out into life with us, not only just the big thought kinds of stuff, but the how do I use this day in and day out, especially when I'm challenged. And I want to be able to share that with you. So this is from Deepak Chopra, from his website, and you can look it up if you like. Negative thinking patterns can create unnecessary stress and anxiety and pave the way for a bleak outlook on life. In his book, Feeling Good, The New Mood Therapy, Dr. David Burns outlines some common negative thinking patterns or cognitive distortions, if you will, such as all or nothing thinking. You may recognize some of these. All or nothing thinking, thinking in terms of black or white or in extremes. You can either act in a way that you label as perfect or as a way that you are a failure, such as, I can't believe I ate a handful of potato chips. I've completely blown my diet. I am a complete and utter failure. I may as well eat the entire bag now. We laugh, but we may have thought something like that, right? Overgeneralization. Inaccurately concluding that one unpleasant experience will lead to a negative future filled with many more of them, such as, I really thought I had that job. Now I'll never land one and will be unemployed forever. It's that always and never stuff, isn't it, that really trips us up when we go into that mode. Magnification, also known as catastrophizing. Exaggerating negative details of an event and overemphasizing your own imperfections and fears, making things into a much bigger deal than they actually are. I'm sure nobody in this room has ever done that, but just, to empathize with the people that have. Such as, I fumbled over my words in front of all of those people. They must think I'm the dumbest person on the planet. My boss is surely going to fire me over this. Then what will I do? Emotional reasoning, believing that how you feel actually represents the truth of your reality, maybe a little too absorbed in the feelings kind of thing, such as, I felt so anxious and stressed out lately, which must mean that my problems are pretty major and near impossible to overcome. Should statements. Using should statements to motivate behavior when they ultimately leave you feeling pressured and frustrated, such as, I should work out after eating that pizza. I should return all those work emails. I should eat super healthy for the rest of the month. It's about 2 weeks. Yeah, you might be able to pull that off somewhere in there, So in Psychology Today, Dr. Melanie Greenberg discusses two more common thinking patterns. One, negative rumination, which is constantly focusing on negative outcomes, leading to feelings of being stuck, anxious, or even depressed. And then overthinking, trying to think of and plan for every possible scenario, essentially attempting to take control of that which is out of your control in an effort to avoid pain or failure. I'm sure there are no overthinkers in this room either, but again, we'll just empathize with the people who are. So how do you get yourself out of these negative thinking patterns and replace them with more useful thoughts? So here are a couple ideas, 5 actually. Number 1, practice mindfulness. In order to adopt more positive thinking patterns, you must first become aware of your current ways of thinking. Makes sense, easier said than done. By cultivating mindfulness, you can acknowledge and identify the thinking patterns that have become habitual and then decide whether or not to engage them. Mindfulness creates a distance between yourself and your thoughts, allowing you to view yourself as separate from them. Isn't that an important part of the process, that my thoughts and feelings and me, that I can actually separate from them long enough to look at it and say, does that serve me or not? creating that mindfulness. Incorporating mindfulness into your morning or evening routine, sitting quietly for a few minutes and gradually longer with practice. And then when a thought arises, instead of attaching yourself to it, simply redirecting focus onto breath. Very basic mindfulness kind of practice, right? Number 2, addressing your inner critic. Your inner critic loves convincing you of things that simply aren't true, often making you feel pretty lousy about yourself. Think of this voice as someone separate from you. Challenge the lies that it tries to feed you. Ever done that? Ask yourself, is that really true? Is there evidence to back up that claim? Another technique is to thank the inner voice for its input, but then to simply say, no thanks, I choose not to engage in those negative thoughts. Or you may prefer the shorter, more blunt response, which is not now, or delete. Yeah. Number 3, know your triggers. Certain people, situations, and circumstances may set into motion more negative thoughts, so it's important to be aware of them. I think I know you know who this is in your life. Perhaps encounters with your boss, or making an important life decision, or something with mom, or who knows, causes you to become overly critical of yourself or to question your self-worth. When you're aware of your triggers, you can prepare yourself and feel more in control of your thoughts versus falling back into old negative thinking patterns. It's also helpful to identify which cognitive distortions, such as the ones we were talking about above, tend to repeat the most. Do you know who the triggers are? And what the triggers are in your life? Number 4, write it out. Put feelings down onto paper is a great way not only to unload your thoughts, but to learn more about them. Often you aren't aware of how negative your thoughts are. Negative thinking patterns become habitual over time. Remember that habit forming part of what we talked about? Typically without even noticing. By writing them down, you can more easily identify the areas that require your attention. You can also interrogate them once they're out on paper to see if they're accurate or have any bearing. If not, let them go, replace them with more positive thinking. Recite a mantra is number 5. Reciting a mantra or a positive affirmation is a great way to pull yourself out from under the negative thoughts into the present moment. My favorite mantra to repeat is the prayer for protection. That is just a wonderful reframe for negative thought energy. It can be recited when you feel negativity creeping in or multiple times in the day throughout, just to get in the habit of focusing on the positivity of the mantra. You can choose a word or phrase that helps to bring you into the present and remind yourself to focus on the positive. There are a number of options there. Of course, the prayer for protection, or I choose peace, or I am enough, or it is enough that I do my best. Number 6, change your surroundings. Sometimes your thoughts can be so loud that the best thing to do is to change your physical surroundings. Take a walk in nature, go for a run, meet up with a friend. The point is to engage in something other than that negative cycle so that you can come back to the problem when you're in a clearer headspace. Choose an activity or location that you find enjoyable, that you know will leave you feeling better. And if you need the company of others, be sure to surround yourself with people who encourage your positive thinking, i.e., steer clear of those triggering people, right? Negative thinking patterns, particularly when they become habitual, can be hard to break. Patterns that have been placed for years won't be undone overnight. So it's essential to be compassionate and patient with yourself as you work through them. Okay, take a breath. Let's circle back to where we started with Lao Tzu. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits. They become your character. Watch your character. It becomes your destiny. So thank you. Bless you. Namaste. Beautiful thoughts too.